Hi, I'm Dom Famularo, and I'm so excited to be back here, the Sessions panel at a distance. We have got some serious players in the music industry today. So, guys, thank you all for welcoming me. Let's start first by welcoming Devitto. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dom. It's great to be here, over on the East Coast during this pandemic. It's great to be anywhere, actually. And it's great to be with this bunch of guys, man. It's going to be fun.
It really is fantastic. Thanks so much. I want to welcome now Leland Sklar. Leland, thank you so much for joining us.
I am so proud to be here. I love doing panels with you, Dom. There's nobody better, and this is really thrilling to see all these cats here, man. This is a deep panel you got going on.
I'd like to also welcome, if we can, the great Steve Lukather. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
It's an honor to be here with these esteemed friends of mine. I've known Jim and Lee for almost 43 years now.
That really is what makes this panel so special, but there's several other people. I've got to welcome the great legend of Jim Keltner. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim.
No. Legend himself.
And I want to welcome my dear friend and cohort in crime, Paul Quin. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us also.
Thanks, Tom. It is awesome to be here with such wonderful people, and I'm especially appreciating Leland currently.
I've had to ask you guys.
The first time Leland he asked me to come out and see his car, he was wearing those lips, and I was just 19 years old, and I thought that's how you got into show business.
Let me ask you guys, the last time we got together was at NAMM in sunny Southern California. It was an incredible convention. It was, of course, well before this pandemic has hit us. And now here we are socially distancing this way, or I should say at least physically distancing.
I don't know how more distant we can be at this point.
Yeah, okay.
But I want to ask
showed up with a mask. That's how conscientious he is. He showed up with a mask for this.
No, I'm taking it seriously. I'm taking it seriously.
Let me start by just saying, Jim, I want to start with yourself.
Okay.
In this time that you have now available, what are you doing with your time to fill this time in now that there's no touring, there really aren't any sessions? What are you doing right now?
For me personally, I didn't really tour anyway for a long time. So that part is, but I feel bad for all the kids that were touring. It's a damn shame that the legs got cut out from underneath. It's just terrible. That part is terrible. And it's bad for the people too that were planning on coming to see these bands and these great performers,
Listen,
it's just a sad thing all the way around. I don't understand it exactly. I know that it's pestilence and there's supposed to be chaos and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Come on, yeah.
But I won't.
I don't want any pestilence. Who wants pestilence? I don't.
I mean, no, we could do without it. We were doing fine without it. I mean, except on one level, but we won't go there either.
So let me ask this question. Leland, what are you doing now with this time that you have available? Are you researching new music? Or are you using the time in a different way?
On the one hand, I absolutely, what Jim said is absolutely right. This is really a profoundly bizarre time for everybody. I mean, I've been on the road every year now for 50 plus years. And this is the first year I had one gig in February and then everything shut down. So I kind of looked at everything and I ended up starting a YouTube channel, which is going crazy. I started a clubhouse on my YouTube channel. I just finished my coffee table book of people giving me the finger, which I'll have.
Legendary stuff, guys. Everybody's gonna want this book, Lee.
It's unbelievable. It's heading off to print next week, and I'll have it by the end of February. Our band, The Immediate Family, we're just finishing our second single video, and the album's coming. I actually am busier than I ever would have been had this not happened, but I'm trying to do all positive things. Like on my YouTube channel, people write me every day saying, this is our oasis from all the hell we're going through. And they're sending me pictures like the family eating dinner, watching my videos and stuff. So it's been really, it's been a real interesting experience because it really made me, I want to be viable. Yeah. I don't want to just kind of roll over during this period because there's so much ugliness going on right now on the political front and stuff, and using this pandemic as like a toy and a ploy. I think it's imperative to try to get through this as unscathed as we can. I have friends that have died. I don't take it lightly at all. And I get all these people that say it's a hoax. Tell that to the families of the dead people. You know, I mean, so it's a profound time of sadness, and it's also a time to really kind of reevaluate things. And how do you maintain your viability in a business that right now is so questionable for the future? We just don't know where we're headed. You know, I want to be at the starting blocks when the gates open.
Yeah, good. Well said.
How were you able to do the recording with the release that just happened?
The album we finished before the pandemic started. As far as the videos go, what we're doing is we're kind of coming up. We had a single out a while back called Cruel Twist. And now we're doing one called Slippin' and Slidin'. And what we did was we kind of talked amongst ourselves, you know, on Zoom and stuff about what we would like the vibe to be. And then each of us has been filming our own segments of it, sending it off. And we have a friend, Mike, who's a film editor, and he's been putting the videos together. Plus, we've done some a cappella videos. You know, you have to find your way through this. And in the same way, I got asked to play on somebody's project. I had never recorded at home before. I've always been gone and busy. When I get home, home is home. I didn't want to do it. And I said, I'd love to do it, but I can't. I'm not set up for it. And he said, I got a friend at SSL. They sent me an SSL 2+ interface. I plugged into GarageBand, and I've been doing a bunch of, you know, bass parts for people from home now. You know, so I'm entering all kinds of areas I never expected to be in. And I was busy through February of next year, and everything shut down. So, you know, I'm just trying to find things to do, you know, to really to stay alive and enjoy music.
Well, Lee, it sounds like what you're doing is you're really making lemonade out of a time that has delivered us a truckload of lemons. So
yeah,
that's so
absolutely.
Here.
Absolutely.
Or like the fertilizer that helps the lemons grow.
Well, let me go to Steve. Steve, what have you been doing? I know you've got a single that you've just released.
Well, yeah, I mean, let me give you a little story. Just real briefly, you know, me, David Page, and Joseph Williams I wrote the thing with for Ringo's 80th birthday, and I made Joseph Williams, the singer in Toto, my ex band, and he's a single man. He lives right down the street. One of the few people that I allow into my house, you know, because I mean, I made pacts with certain people like Ringo and stuff like that. I wouldn't be around anything that could get him sick, and I don't really. And when I see him, it's masks and gloves and everything, but. Yeah. Let alone myself, I have an autistic son that may not be able to communicate how he feels. My nanny housekeeper of 36 years has an 85-year-old mom with immune disorders, and I got little kids. You know, I'm just being really careful because I'm not 20 years no more. You know, I don't trust this. I know that perhaps the numbers are jacked up but I don't think the disease is fake. And I think reading about now 3 months after there's lesions on your hands and your lungs. This isn't like something that goes through you real fast and disappears. So, you know, the fact that it's been politicized is really awful because, I mean, human life is not right or left. It's just human life, humanity. That's me. I'm an independent guy. I don't want to be on anybody's team. I'm on humanity's team. You know what I mean? I keep my personal self to myself. Not everybody's like that, but I've found that I really have. If you're going to talk, you really know you got to know what you're talking about. I really don't know what's 100%, so I just listen and try to stay like you guys. Wash my hands, be responsible, and I wear a mask and gloves. The 5 times I've been out of my house since February, I've been worked since October. You know, I mean, I forgot what it feels like. I mean, I practice, but you know, I mean, how long do you sit there and practice after we've all been living a lifetime of playing? Yeah. I want to keep my fingers on it, but you know, I've never had a suntan like this in my life either. I've never been home this long since I was 17 years old living with my parents. Okay,
you look great.
Home, but I mean, you know,
you look marvelous.
I'm like, you know, I made a solo record that I was able to do in February live. It's not coming out until February, but the single thing I had Ringo graced me with the honor of him being in the video, and he's become a dear friend of mine. You know, you guys, I don't have to tell you, Jim or Lee. I don't know if you've worked with no Ringo at all, Liberty, but he's like the greatest guy I've ever known.
Tell me about Run to Me. You put this together
today.
Today it's out, right?
No, we did it in one day. I did my record, my whole album in 8 days because it was all live, mostly except for the vocals I overdubbed. And live solos, everything. I wasn't allowed to overdub. You're not allowed to fix anything. I've always wanted to do something like that. It's a vanity sort of a thing. If you like it, great. But I have a blast. So, you know, I'm putting together things. I'm finding new ways to generate income. I got a documentary I'm working on, which unfortunately I can't really work on right now because the director's in the UK. I've got a wonderful new girlfriend. I found love later in life, and I was alone for 10 years. So I'm being real positive about it. I've been grateful. I'm so grateful for my career. And Jim and Lee were there when I first started out, when I was just a little zit-faced kid, you know.
Let me ask, Liberty, I know you put your book out. It's fantastic. I have seen that. The book is out. You're doing it. You're getting out there promoting the book. What have you been doing in this time now to kind of fill in that time? Are you out promoting the book?
Well, here's what I think about this pandemic. Remember when you first met your wife and you said, I could live on a desert island along with you? Well, now's the time to prove it. You know, put your money where your mouth is. We're still together, me and my wife. I think we can make it together for the rest of our lives now. You know? But yeah, the book, I've been doing interviews, you know, a lot of serious radio stuff. The book bumped Elton and Pink Floyd out of #1 for biographies.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really smoking. I mean, I actually think it could have been the New York Times bestseller list if I could have done a book tour, but that's not happening. My band, the Lords of 52nd Street, talking about, you know, we do all the Billy stuff. It's myself, Richie Cannata, and Russell Jarvis.
Say Richie and all those guys, huh?
We are actually starting to play again. We're doing those parking lot gigs. And we did one last week. We're doing another one next week. And it's interesting the way the promoters are trying to bring music back again. You know, I live in New York, and our curve has been down for a while. You know, we haven't opened up the restaurants. You can't go inside. I know in California, they opened up the restaurants and the curve went back up again. So we're kind of like watching them, and we didn't open the restaurants up. So it pretty much has stayed the same. So when we play live, you know, we go there, we distance, we wear the masks. Nobody comes backstage. There's no meet and greets. And we do the gig. I jump in the car and I'm gone. I come home. And like Steve, I have to be careful too, because I have a 3-year-old. You know, and I don't want her.
Of course, I understand.
Yeah.
I was raising my hand only to ask you, what was that like, that experience, and what did the audience look like, and how did they hear it? I mean, I really don't know. I've heard about these things. I'm curious the experience. If you could just lay me on to that, and the crowd, I'm sure, would love to hear this too.
Yeah, well, it was a little strange because, you know, in the beginning, when you were a band that just went on the road and people didn't know who you are, you played for each other. And you really got off playing for each other. You have to do that again because the crowd is so far away. You're kind of out of touch with them. So you're playing for each other now again, like it was originally, you know, when you started playing. But it's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people show up. They fill the parking lots up. People sit in front of their cars on their lounge chairs, and they listen to music.
Some people and everything, like it's all like a real show.
Yeah, some places got the PA. Other places, they have the radio. It tunes in from a radio. They can listen on the radio. Yeah. So it's starting to happen.
It's like the old drive-in days when you take a girl to the drive-in. You know?
Yes.
They're doing them now.
I mean, the movie,
drive-ins are coming back now. All of a sudden, you know, that something that everybody thought was gone forever. You know, at the Rose Bowl next to me, they've got a massive screen in the parking lot, and like 5 nights a week, they're showing movies, and people pull in their cars and they can tune in on the radio station. It's fabulous.
I used to love the drive-in.
Yeah.
You and I had so much fun at the drive-in.
So this entire new normal now is starting to spread out globally by musicians having to rethink. Paul, what do you see as an entertainment lawyer and producer and what you're doing? What do you see now with some of your clients and how they're able to adapt to what the new normal is?
Well, I will tell you that having playing a lot in a little jazz trio, I'm very used to playing gigs where the audience is a long way away, frequently in another town. Lib, I identify with what you're saying. But no, here's what I'm finding during COVID. Listen, I'm one of the privileged ones because I can still work. My clients have more needs. They may not actually have more needs than they had before, but they've got time to think about what those needs are and so therefore act upon them. So I'm getting more calls from people who don't have the money to pay, but, you know, hey, everybody needs help. So Busier than probably I've ever been, frankly. You know, and that's really a bonus. The issues still exist that existed before, but the truth is, during this time when we have the opportunity to do something, we have to actually decide to do something. Otherwise, we do nothing, right? And the people, in my experience, the people that have been successful in life, which is certainly everybody on this panel, have got there because they've had the drive to do something. And that drive has not gone away just because they're stuck in their house.
Not at all. I mean, I'm, if anything, more motivated to try to figure it out. You can't just go sit around and go, I'm pissed off. It's not like it used to be. Well, it's not going to be like it used to be. Maybe not for a long time, maybe not ever. So we have to grow with it. Like, we're all older guys. We're all lifers here, man. We all saw the Beatles on TV. And, you know, I
saw the Beatles in person.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it all began, you know, it was like my life went from black and white to color that night in 1960.
Exactly. Same thing.
Ever since, I mean, the mathematical odds of me actually pulling it off, you know, being in Ringo's band for almost going on 9 years. Being his friend is so far out of the realm of possibility. If you look at the mathematical odds of that, it's not lost on me, and I'm humbled. And
longer than the Beatles were together.
You know, I mean, like I said, I mean, I can't even think of myself in those terms, but I know.
Well,
that music.
I'll start with Leland. Leland, what was it about February of 1964 when the Beatles were on television? What was it about? What ingredients did they have that shifted the industry to an incredible level?
It's hard to put your finger on it, but they brought something to the table that really hadn't been heard. The whole English invasion really did that. But the Beatles, you know, just had something. And I was an usher at the Hollywood Bowl when they played there. So I got to hear them live. And I got up near the stage and I could hear them, and they were great. I mean, it was one of those things where I just went, it's like I saw Jimi Hendrix play, I saw Cream play, you know, and there's these certain moments in your life that you just go, something just happened, and I want to be a part of this and figure out what's going on. Yeah.
I mean, the music, there's something that they changed the whole way the world felt. I mean, that was when it brought the youth together at a time when they were just shaking off this us or the, you know, the music. Let's just talk about the music. It still sounds incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and I saw Ringo took me to a little sneak preview of some of that Peter Jackson footage of redigitized the Let It Be, the happy story, not the dark story. And here I'm sitting in the theater watching this Ringo. He's right behind. I got to grab his leg and go, I can't believe that I have this honor to see this and to see them happy in the studio. So it wasn't all dark, and Ringo, I think, was real happy. I shouldn't speak for him. I would never do that. But I mean, it's just like, it was nice. He was happy that people will see that they didn't part as brutal enemies. You know what I mean? I think the stories about the women in the studio, you know, you see Yoko and Linda were smiling and laughing, listening to a playback, and we were making that record. And when they played on the rooftop, how good they sounded. Set up through a little deluxe reverb and a little teeny PA system, and you know, nothing. Just how they really, the vocals, the way they sang, man, that was the real thing, man. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, let's fix this and all this. Those cats just set a new standard. That's, I don't think is. We all done some cool stuff, but the Beatles are still a litmus test. You know, it's like when you go in the studio, you go, I need a little Beatle guitar thing. You know what that is? There's still a reference point. I need a Ringo fill. I need you know, when you say that, you don't mean the exact thing. You know where to go in your mind. Oh, okay, yeah. It inspires you to do something of your own. I still use George Harrison and, you know, all the Paul and George's guitar parts and sounds as an inspiration to me to make when I'm hearing guitars and stuff like that. And I got a chance.
Hey, Steve.
Jeff Emmerich too, so I learned some inside stuff. You know,
Steve, when they signed on with iTunes, the Billboard in LA just had them, the back of them. I don't think anybody had to say, who is that? And they didn't even show their faces.
But how many drum parts? I mean, you've done some legendary drum parts, but I mean, come on, Jim and Liv. I mean, come on.
Steve,
how many guys you know that can just hear the drum part and know exactly what song it is?
Steve, I always say this. I say Ringo didn't pave the road for us drummers. He plowed up the dirt, knocked down the trees before he paved that road. Yeah. That's what he did.
Liberty,
You know,
let me ask you,
you
Liberty.
guys took the ball like a Jim. You know what I mean? He was
Yeah.
the guy sitting next to Ringo. You know what I mean? I mean, Bangladesh and all that. You know, that hit my heart hard too, man. Jim, you're Mad Dogs and all that, man. Legend. Lee, I've been listening to you since before, you know, I knew who you were. You know what I mean? I mean, you've done everything from James Taylor to Billy Cobham to like Billy Thorpe, you know, like gazillion records. Got to be the most recorded bass player of all time, you know?
Jim, if you can.
I've been on the road with him, so I know who he really is. And unfortunately, he knows who I really used to be.
Jim Keltner, you have seen
Look at Lee's head.
you have seen, Jim, the likes of an industry change tremendously. Just from your wisdom, from where the industry came to where it's going, how do you take all of this in? What do you even think about what's going on right now?
You know, the temptation is to say that things were so much greater in those days. I find myself wanting to say things like back in the day when you'd go into the studio with geniuses, you know, guys that wrote songs that actually just played themselves so well that to come in and play drums on them was to add icing to a beautiful cake. But I don't want to say that because there are, you know, there are young geniuses out there right now, just like there was John and George and Paul, and guys like Ringo, you know, who play straight from the heart. You know, they're out there. Unfortunately, right now, there's just no way to do the thing that you need to do to progress, which is to play and to play live, to play with each other.
Yeah.
You can't have a satisfying career making records if you're just coming in to put drums on or put the bass on it. That's a part. That's just a piece of the thing that you do as a guy who plays on records. The main thing is playing live together. You know, everybody knows that. All musicians know that. I was going to say something a minute ago about the Beatles. You know, like Lee, you first heard them like that, like as a kid at the theater working. You know, the first time I heard them was my wife Cynthia called me in the other room. She said, "Hey, come and watch this. Look at this." And I said, "What is it?" And I came in. I took one look, and I ran out of the room again. And I made the first Beatle I told that to was John. John loved that. He laughed so hard. And I was really glad that he laughed because, you know, I told him I hated rock and roll. And I thought that they were just, you know, four white guys playing rock and roll. And that's all I needed to know to stay away from it. But that changed. Obviously that changed. And then I began to realize just all the amazing things about them. And one of the things, this is another thing I wanted to say a minute ago. I always loved the volume that they played at. And I have a theory that that's one of the reasons why their vocals were always so spot on amazing, because they didn't overpower with their instruments, with the guitars and the drums. I say that with no. Look, see, I mean, I know right away.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You know, and I mean, you know, look, these two guys right here are two of the baddest cats on the planet. You know, and they know what I'm saying. I just have always felt that was the great thing about them. And you know, when you hear Ringo play, when you see him play live, or you watch him on any old Beatle clip, and especially the thing that Luke was just talking about, the Let It Be film. That's such a beautiful thing to watch. You know, the not only the fact that they really did enjoy being in each other's company, they enjoyed making each other laugh. Yeah. They'd show a close up on John's face or Paul's face or George's face when the groove was just so compelling. Just, you know, it just was getting right through to their bones. I love that. And that you could see that at any rehearsal with any band who loved each other and loved playing with each other, you know, playing music with each other. It's just, I could go on and on about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you know, when I first met Ringo, I said to him, I said, you know, Ringo, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And he put his arm around me and he said, well, at least you're not blaming me for it.
Cat is still Hard Day's Night funny. I mean, and as far as a player, he's 80 years old. You know, I did this little song for him. I said, would you play on this for me? And he said yes. And he did it in like the first take. He listened to the song once and he got it. And his pocket, I had already recorded stuff because this is the world we live in where you couldn't get everybody in a room to play. Right. And he was the last guy on. I had finished the track. I mean, the vocals and everything were done. We'd had to work to a machine. And I just wrote this song for him as an ode to the 60s and the early 70s of that time. Remind me of, so obviously a nod to the Beatles, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and the ELO. I mean, that's in my heart, you know what I mean? And it was for him. It had nothing to do with the rest of my record, really, in terms of style-wise, but a summer song that has happy and during sad times. And it's got like 256,000 hits in 10 days. I made like $40, not even $4 maybe. So, but you know, if you sold 250,000 records, that's like halfway to gold by today's standards. So, yeah. I mean, you got to hit record, you don't make any money. So you have to figure out a way. Well, we used to go tour behind it. Well, you got to make yourself, maybe there's some streaming events now where you can do a one-time stream and people pay a very little bit of money and you can try to generate money. We're going to do some stuff like this. You try to bring it, or you go down to the Spud and you do a jam, Baked Potato in LA, and you do a jam with no audience. And you know what I mean? And people can tune in, give some money to charity or whatever, you know, just to play. Like you said, you play for yourselves, like a really good rehearsal, like say, except you know it's real, so you dig in. Yeah. And so, you know, I just got to want to play. I'm tired of not playing people. I'm tired of not being able to hug somebody when I see them. You know what I mean?
Right. Virtual hugs, man. Virtual hugs.
Guy, you know, it's hard for me not to do that. I've had to retrain myself not to be physical with anyone because it's dangerous or uncomfortable for other people, you know. And for me,
this again is this new normal that we're entering. So, Liberty, what was it about that when you heard the Beatles? I know you're a real serious Beatles fan. What was it about them that you're using with your music today?
Well, I always loved music. The drums came because my father, I asked him later on in my career, why did you get me drums? And he said, because they didn't make Prozac when you were a kid. So he got me drums to beat on. And but the Beatles, everybody was musically in there. You know that Ringo listened to what Paul was singing or what George was playing on the guitar. They were truly a band, a small little orchestra that listened and made up their part to fit with the other parts. I took that into the studio with Billy. You know, I don't read or write music. I got Billy's lyrics and I would play to his lyrics, just like Ringo played to the Paul and John's lyrics. One of the greatest examples is No Reply. When you listen to No Reply, the drums drive that song along with Lennon's vocal. It is unbelievable. You can imagine a kid standing there and yelling at this girl and begging her, why did you lie to me? Why did you do that? And Ringo's following right along with that same drive. That's what I got out of the Beatles.
Yeah, well, and no click tracks, you know, everybody playing at the same time. I mean, listen to the first couple, you know, we did the first Beatles album in 2 days, side one, side two, or whatever it was, you know what I mean? You know, and it's like, you had to be that good. That's the difference. You had to be that good. All the little cheating and helping that everybody can do now, and everybody thinks they're a producer if they get a computer with GarageBand, and they call, you know, if you plug in the drum machine, you're a writer. There's 14 people write a song. So even when you make $4, now you only make 4 cents. You know what I mean?
Talk about the early Beatles. You know what was amazing to me? When you listen to the early Beatles, how many songs George sang? There's so many songs he sang, you know? He sang The Devil in the Heart. He sang so many of them. Do you want to know a secret? You know, yeah. All of them. Dance, Happy Just to Dance with You. Great tunes.
You know, for anyone that doubts the longevity and the talent of the Beatles, you have to think that there are 6 guys on a Zoom in the middle of a pandemic, and everybody is just enthusiastically talking about this band that haven't recorded for 50 years. You know, and the truth is they're the greatest songwriters. Their music is absolutely timeless. It stands up amongst the best pop music that's even played now.
Absolutely.
You know, so they are the gold standard.
Well, you know, I mean, we can't help but, you know, always reference them because so you talk about the chicken and the egg, who came first? Well, there you have it. They created something that we've all been inspired by, and we've had a chance to make it our own after all these years. But there's always a little element, like this new single that I did is obviously shamelessly influenced by it all, and I wear it like proud. Yeah, of course, it was for his birthday.
But you know what? If Paul was on this panel, he'd be talking about Buddy Holly and Little Richard and all those that came before him.
Yeah, we all do that. I mean, I still think, I have a big, gigantic picture of Jimi Hendrix in my painting in my living room,
I think what is interesting here is a couple things. First of all, Steve, I really believe for myself, the chicken was born pregnant. It all happened at the same time. The second point is, if you think about it, the timing of the Beatles has played a very important part of it. We had just seen and witnessed a US president get assassinated in the eyes of the world the November before. So the world was in mourning. This band came by and hit 73 million people on a television show in America that at the time was the voice for the world, that produced and gave us hope, happiness, love, unity. They delivered to us a message. So I ask you now, we are at the time of this incredible pandemic. This is a very serious time. What kind of music should be delivered for the timing now that should give the world hope and humanity? What should we go next?
Well, I think it's got to be somebody young. It's got to be a new movement of peaceful but really intense. Something, we need a new sound. We need to inspire. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Have we played every note that can be played in a certain way that there's nothing new anymore? Have we permutated all the notes that there are in rock music or popular music? Is it done, or is there somebody going to come along and change the sound? It used to be 10 years or so, but now it hasn't happened in a while.
I think the issue, though, is the internet has democratized music in some good ways and in some bad ways. I mean, the problem is, back when we were all young, records were being released by people who were signed to a label, who'd been found, who were being pushed. But now anyone can release a record. And the problem is, I don't think there are any fewer geniuses around now than there were in 1970. But how do you find them?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the talent spotting issue that labels and A&R used to be able to pride themselves in has dissipated until, when I have clients that want me to shop stuff for them to labels, the lesson I'm learning is if it's not a complete, mixed, mastered, something ready to go, there's no one at the label with the talent to find the diamond in the rough. So, there was a time when you could submit a great song, acoustic guitar, vocal, and somebody could tell, oh my gosh, this can be turned into something great with the right guys, with Lee, with Luke, with Jim. Put them in the studio and they can turn this into something great. And I don't know if they have the ability to do that anymore. Of course, some people do, but generally speaking,
there aren't record labels anymore. They got rid of them. They say they can't afford it when they're making more money than they ever have.
It's a totally different world, and what we were fortunate enough to be for kind of, I don't want to say the golden age of all this, but in a way it sort of was. I try to be real cognizant of not wanting to be the old fart in the room talking about the old days, because I still know working. And so I don't get into discussions about analog versus digital. But I think you're absolutely right, Paul, where there was that period of time where there was a machine that actually, you kind of knew you were going to get screwed by the label, but they had a machine to get the music out there. They could get it placed. They could get it heard. And there were people that were discerning enough in the label. Like when you look at some of the artists that had huge catalogs before they ever had a hit, but people at the label still supported them. And they thought someday this person's going to make it. And they do. And then the whole back catalog comes in. But like you were saying, now, like everybody's a record producer. Everybody's an artist. They all sit at home with their computers. And the magic that made the records of those days so good was the fact that there was a room full of creative people that were feeding off of each other. And, so many projects where you would be doing a song and you go, God, the bridge kind of sucks on this song. And the band would hunker down, create a bridge or create an intro. or, you know, there's so many things that came into play where when you're just sitting, you know, when somebody sends me a file, all I can do is do a bass part. I can't affect the track except with my bass part. And, you know, and it's just at times very unsatisfying. And I look back to the Beatles, you know, like you were saying, Don, when I look at McCartney, I mean, he really led me down the path to melodic bass playing. Even though I was doing it at the time, he really kind of put a stamp on it. And I sit and listen to his bass parts, and I still sit in awe of the thought process that went into these. I mean, they are so exquisite. On every song they ever did, they had an impact that's really hard to say because it came from so many directions. You were really being hit with so much up by those guys. And I've always just aspired I love that period in music when I saw Cream play at my college. In the gym, where I saw Jimi Hendrix playing at Devonshire Downs or at the Experience Club in Hollywood. And you just go, something's happening. This is really amazing. And it's life-changing. Like the first time I heard the Vanilla Fudge's first album. And I just, what the hell did I just hear? But now there's great artists out there still, but there's not a great business. And that's really, to me, that's the issue.
The business thing is just different and evolving. The pandemic has thrown it all into a loop. I mean, the truth is that the labels are making more money now than they've ever made at any time. And you know, the reason is because, believe it or not, there are more people paying $10 a month for their Spotify or Apple Radio when you add up that amount of money that comes in than was ever being spent on records. So the labels are making money hand over fist. Now, things changed a little as the pandemic started, but the problem is the labels don't care and don't look after the artists and the people that the artists feed. So, you know, we all are hurting, you know, musicians especially, but, you know, crew, drivers, bus drivers, lighting
caterers, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they are killed by this. And I firmly believe that the way forward is we have to recreate this industry, and it has to be recreated by people like us. And I will give you 2 seconds of legal advice for the kids that are watching this right now. I will tell you, do not negotiate any contract or any deal during this pandemic, especially management deals, especially agent deals, because they're hurting even worse than you are. The deals I'm seeing have come across my desk in the last 3 months are this. They've taken a quantum leap into a new level of unfairness. So because we're not gigging, we don't need a manager right now. Wait till this is over and we'll negotiate from a better position.
Or manage yourself like I do and save the money.
Or manage yourself like Luke does, right? Yeah, you know, because he's got time, not just to write singles, play. You know, I've even seen videos of him playing in his backyard recently on Twitter, thanks to his kind neighbor. But, you know, he's even got time to write books too.
Hey,
you know,
thank you for the
look at this.
Yeah. All right.
Well, listen.
I'll get you a copy of my finger book when I get it.
Oh man, I hope I'm in it.
Huge.
It's deep.
Keltner, this puts a certain pressure on you to have to start to notate some of the incredible career that you are still having. To go back a few years, it's time for your book, Jim.
Come on, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, come on.
Don't be lazy.
David Foster told me about 20 years ago, he said, Jimmy, it's time for your book, but don't get one of those guys that write in the magazines, you know, get a real pop guy. And and so that, you know, that was David's advice. And I know what he was saying. You know, I have a book. No, I have 3 books now that started in October 1st of 1960. The first gig that I entered, I had been playing before that. I still have the first dollar I made. My mom made sure I had that. But no, October 1st of 60 was a sorority gig at PCC, Pasadena City College. Ever since then, every gig I've ever done, every luau I ever played, every recording session, it's all in my book. And the person that was the most fascinated by that was my buddy George. And when he would come here, that's one of the first things he would do. We would sit at the table so we could just talk about crazy stuff. he always wanted me to bring the book out, and he would look at it, and he got off looking at all the names and the gigs and stuff. And he said that I should do a book. And I said, well, I'll do it if you'll help me. And he said, are you kidding me? Let's do it. And that was one of the last plans that we had together.
Oh, wow, man.
Imagine that, how fun that would have been.
Sounds like you owe him, man.
Well, George is my first hero, and I got to hang with him and play with him, and I had some magical moments. Jim, you were there that one night. We had that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
With Bob Dylan and Jeff Lynne, you, me, and George messing around at Jeff's house, and that was one of the deep moments of my pinch.
Those magical little times,
And that's why it's important to read Steve's book, because there's so many great memories that you have in there, which is so, so powerful. The Gospel According
I
to
want to
the...
read Liberty's book. I haven't read it yet. I got to get that.
Absolutely.
They're both great.
One final question. We've only got a couple minutes left. I know Leland's got to go. We've got some other things that we have to do, but I got to ask you a question. 30 seconds. All I want is a 30-second answer. In conclusion, Jim, what would you say to this next generation on what they should prepare themselves for? 30 seconds, if you can give that to me now.
I'll make it very, very simple. For me, it's really about not allowing the divisive craziness in the chaos that's happening in our world right now with what we just spoke of, the lack of business now and the lack of this and that. Concentrate on your art, your love, your passion for the music, and really do try to spread the love. Now that sounds so cliche and everything, but that will never go out of style, man. That's the thing that all songs are written about, will always be written about. Love. So spread the love.
Jim Keltner, thank you so much. Leland Sklar, what would you say to this next generation?
I would say listen to what Jim Keltner just said. I think it's exactly right. I think it's exactly right. I don't know how to add to that, because I think that's really fundamental thing that we really have to look at is togetherness and unity and caring for one another and supporting each other, and not, this constant bickering and so Jim said it for me. Yeah, I love you, Jim.
Right on, bro.
Beautiful. Lim Devitto, what would you say to this next generation?
I would tell them, no matter what's going on around you, do not lose your passion for your instrument. If you're playing in the basement of your mother's house, play it like you mean it, because you're going to take that with you after this pandemic is over, when you start playing in clubs again. It's going to continue. I know it is.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Lim Devitto, thank you so much. Steve Lukather, what would you say to this generation to give them that sense of hope?
Well, hope is something we can't lose. There's no point in breathing anymore if you don't have hope and love in your heart, at least. But musically speaking, it's a new world. You got to be ready for anything in terms of making it a business, But the reason before we all made any money, the moment you figured out you could play your instrument well enough to play with other people, and the joy that it gave you, it was infectious. Everybody around you would get excited. Wow, you guys sound great, or wow, you play good for a kid, or whatever. That before you knew about girls and money, I've been playing since I was, right after I saw them. I was in my first band at 9 years old and making a little bit of dough on the weekends when I was 11. So this has always been my whole life. And what was always like, I'd been on the road like 300 days a year for the last 10 years doing between Ringo's band and Toto. And now it was like 1,000 miles an hour into a brick wall. I'm taking this time to reflect on my life. I'm seeing it shrink. I used to be this angry, loud, obnoxious person. And I'm keeping the demented part because that's just who I am. But in terms of me just relaxing and taking a look and slowing down, taking a breath before I speak, it was quite different for me. Most of you know what I mean? I'm trying to be a mellower person as I see I'm in the back nine now. You know what I mean? I'm taking time I'm resting. I'm eating really well. Or my girlfriend's an organic cook, and I've lost weight, and I'm cleaning up the negative stuff in my life. And unfortunately, there's been some pain there. We all have it. So I'm feeling really good, even though I'm sitting in my house. I've got plans. It's just, we got to get rid of the virus, man. We got to chill everybody out and not politicize this. Let's be humanity and get well together and try to find some goodness in your heart. And it's not all doom and gloom. The world, you know, the sky hasn't fallen yet. It just feels like it.
Steve,
Try to stay positive, man, in these darker times, man.
Thanks.
Peace and love.
thank you so much, Steve. Well said.
Here.
What would you say, Paul, to this last effort of hope?
Well, I'd certainly build on everything anybody else said, but I'll tell during this pandemic, the advice I would give people is work hard, stay focused, be kind, treat people fairly, and build bridges. Call people. You know, this is a time when we can't go visit with folks. So call people, interact with people. You know, I think I said on the last video, let's not be socially distant. Let's be physically distant and be socially close. So call the people you love. Tell them you love them, right? We make the world a better place by doing so. Work hard, stay focused, stay passionate.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you so
love
much,
all
everyone.
guys.
I think what's amazing about this is the collective energy, the collective passion, the collective forward motion towards bettering humanity is in this group right now. You have done it, you continue to do it, and now through your words and your messages and just the way you lead your lives, you are making dramatic change. You are influencing people, you are lifting people. For that, we thank you so much on behalf of the sessions. At a distance, you all are great. Safe travels, stay well, and thank you so much.
Hey, I love you all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hey, Liberty. I never said hello to Liberty Devitto, man.
Shameless
Liberty.
I am.
I love you, Liberty. It's
I
good
love
to
you
see
too,
you.
Jim.
All right, my brother.
Billy Amendola
Love,
talks
guys.
about you all the time, Jim.
Great hang, man. Great hang.
Love you all.
So
Hey,
much.
look,
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Bye.
Lee,
see ya.
that's you wear that in the car, man. When you drive by the car and you look over at somebody.
Like this in the window.
Yeah.
I got one. I got two.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
got him here too, for sure.
great.
Thanks, guys. I'll see
Take
you.
care, guys.
Bye,
Hey, love
Dom.
to you. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.
Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.